Section 2 in resentments is one of the hardest things that I've ever had to go through. Um, but it's also been the most valuable thing for me because after I looked at my self responsibility in my life, in all the resentments that I had, I really got so much freedom. So here is where we really turn ourselves from victimhood to empowerment. And you're going to realize how many things you have a responsibility over. The first time I wrote a resentment inventory, which is something that you're going to do in your PDF, mine was 72 pages long. So I'm also a very specific person. So don't expect yourself to write 72 pages of resentments. Um, but I was a really angry person and I was a really victim oriented person for a very long time. And I had resentments towards certain groups of people, institutions like banks, um, uh, people who were powerful or in the seat of politics. I had resentments over anybody in the police force. I had a resentment over anybody who didn't see my opinion. I mean, I had uh, a resentment towards a lot of different elements, and I had a responsibility to take over that. I also had to learn that um, if I had a relationship with somebody and I was harboring pain in the relationship, that was my responsibility as well. And that's a really tough one to look at. So you are not the victim in so many of the resentments you carry with you. Here we unlock where you can start seeing your patterns and why negative cycles repeat. Once we see our responsibility, we can finally step into the light of empowerment. This is so exciting. This is the root of healing the toxic relationship you have with yourself. Okay? So, the root of empowerment is in knowing that we can take responsibility for the way we experience our perceptions. Here we go again. I've been saying it all along. Nothing else is in our control. When we learn to heal our own part in communication breakdowns, relationship failures, and our own bitterness with the past, we can start shaping and nurturing the right relationships for the right reasons. An act of self-love is to honor our part in the way things are. So when we take responsibility for all of our experiences and all our patterns, then we can finally be free. So here it gets tricky because you have to write a resentment inventory and the worksheet is in your PDF. So I have to explain how this worksheet works. So please bear with me. And it's really important that you have the PDF open. This is in section 2, so you can start understanding how to write a resentment inventory. So the resentment inventory has to do with all the resentments that are not to do with the inner child. So all the things that happened after 12 to 18, like once you feel like you've had a responsibility over your actions. In my case, it was about the age of 15, where I felt like I had a part to play in my responsibility and the way that I saw my life. This might again be different for you. So I don't know, maybe you were a bully when you were 15 and maybe you feel like you had a responsibility because you knew the pain that and anguish you were creating for other people. So again, this is really where we have to dig deep and look at our part and see if we were a victim of the way we acted or if we had a responsibility in it. And also, this is for anything where spontaneous abuse or a situation didn't happen. So if something is a reoccurring pattern and you have a reoccurring perception on it, um, then you have to try and get rid of that. There are a lot of women that I've been seeing over the years where they come to me and they say, I hate men. They're all the same. They're all cheaters. They're all assholes. So when you have a perception on a group of something, then this is your part to play in it, because that's not true. Like, we can't make assumptions again that all purple people are idiots, right? So, and that um, because they're idiots, we keep having the same experience. So this is just harboring pain. If you started really releasing your resentments over purple people, then you might have a beautiful experience with purple people. So this is where we start really digging deep. When we look at the resentment inventory, it's important that you do it in a chronological order. So you start with the youngest age by which you think you had self-responsibility. So let's just say, let's go from 12 years old, because you've already done the radical forgiveness for all the victimization you've had as a child. And you start with anything that's ever annoyed you, destroyed you, harbored disappointment, harbored sadness, anguish, anger, rage, hatred. So when you're having a hard time remembering any of those things, don't think about it, feel into it. So for example, do it in parts. So start with maybe the age of 10 to 15. All right, what can I remember from that moment? Oh, I remember when dad said he was going to buy me a chocolate bar, but he never did. So don't even analyze if it's a big deal or not. If you memorize it and it's in your memory, then you probably are resenting it if it's a negative experience. And so I would do it in chronological order through age, and the people that are in your life. For example, if dad and mom are in your life between the ages of 10 to 15, maybe start with them, brother, sister, all of those elements. Um, yes, so you're basically putting in the first column, you are putting down the person, the institution, the group of people, or the principles, or even unnamed strangers that you remember being affected by. So you can write the Bank of Massachusetts, the Starbucks clerk, dad, that bully at school that I don't know the name, the red-haired kid. All of those things have to be recorded. In column 2, you write down what happened. So this is where it gets tricky, because here we want to write down the assumptions. For example, we would say, you know, Timmy hates me. Timmy expressed he hated me because he didn't want to hold my hand. Well, what happened is Timmy just didn't hold my hand, right? We can't put an assumption onto that. It's just a factual thing, a witness account that happened in column 2 from that person or the principal in column 1 that is expressed. Column 3, what emotions were primary at that time? When Timmy didn't hold my hand, I felt sadness, rejection, and abandonment, for example. Column 4. What of these 7 areas did it affect in my life? Because it's really important to start understanding, like, if you had an emotion from column 3, what are some of the areas that your life was affected by? And here I just put things in short. There are 7 areas, and then you can just put those initials to what the explanation follows. So basically, RTS stands for relationship to myself, or self-esteem. Like, has it really affected the way you look at yourself? PR, personal relationships or romantic relationships. Has it changed the way you see other people, and the way you've trusted or mistrusted other people? F, has it affected your finances and your work, or the way that you see money? Do you feel worthless when it comes to money and power and your work or your purpose? Has it affected ES, emotional security? Do you feel like um, you can't emotionally surrender with vulnerability towards other people? S, has it affected your safety? So, do you not feel like you're safe going on the train because something happened to you in a train and you don't like trains? So, that's affecting your safety. Has it affected your sex? I just put sex. Your sexual relationships. Has it made you feel very shy about being naked or being sexually exposed? Do you feel timid with another person? And P, has it affected your purpose or spiritual path? So in column 4, it's really important that we write down all the areas it has affected us. Um, Column 5, what was my part in it? So this is where it gets really tricky because you might have a very blind eye towards it. An example is, let's say you were 18 years old and you usually take the train from home to college and then college back home. But one night you got a little bit wasted because you were hanging out at the campus a little bit too long and it was 1 o'clock in the morning and you were super drunk and there was a subway, but you had money for a cab, but you're like, oh, I'm just going to take the subway. And something horrific happened at the subway station. Um, you have to put that into the resentment inventory because this is an act where you had the responsibility to take the cab. Because if your intuition told you that it wasn't safe for you to get on the subway at that time, and because it's out of your own pattern, um, then you could actually potentially see that it wasn't a spontaneous act. But this is again, it's up to you whether you want to take responsibility over that or not. So you could say, I had the responsibility to understand that this was not the right time to be going on a subway by myself at night. Okay? So here I have added a resentment inventory worksheet. And because mine was 72 pages long, I'm assuming that yours might be long as well. But I think I've put like 4 or 5 pages in, but you can just keep printing these out or making your own if you've had a long resentment sheet. So after you write down this resentment inventory, like what do you do with it? Well, it's really beautiful because once you see your own part in things, you start seeing that you have a certain pattern, right? So, for example, in my world, the reason why I kept attracting toxic men and emotionally corrupt men is because I had a part to play in it. I wanted to be with men like that and avoidant men. Um, so I kept attracting them. And once I saw my own pattern, I just was able to really see my own part in it, and then really heal those parts within me until I got to a place where that is no longer my truth. And so section 3 is really about looking at section 2, which is the resentment inventory, and discussing this with somebody or a group partner and looking at all of your major repeating character flaws, and the things that you repeat in your personality, right? Discuss what areas it has affected in your life. So be very, very sure about all of the areas that have been affected so that you can heal and grow from that point of view. Number 3, are you fully committed to changing your point of view, right? So point of view is really important because in order to really forgive those things, you got to start again being really grateful for those things happening so that you can change them. So when you are in a place of accepting where you are with your resentments and really feeling them through, then you can take personal power and empowerment back, really. So this is a beautiful way to start really opening up. And when you finish Heal Your Toxic Relationship with Yourself program, it's actually a great idea to dive deep into those resentments and then releasing them as well. All right, that's all. Good luck with it. Bye.